What is going on, everybody? You got Matty Brollic here, and I am back once again to pump out some more Sun and Moon draft format content right before Ultra Sun and Moon does come out. Like I said in my previous video, if you guys did not watch it, I wanted to get out some regular Sun and Moon draft content videos because I have some good content that I wanted to show you guys, but at the same time I wanted to do it sooner rather than later, because once Ultra Sun and Moon comes out, I get the feeling that not a lot of people are going to want to watch just regular Sun and Moon stuff because everyone's going to be focused on the new meta, and I don't think as many people are going to care about regular Sun and Moon videos, so I want to get it out a little bit earlier, so maybe more of you will watch it. Now, this is actually for a tournament called MBA Off-Season. I'm not exactly sure what the MBA stands for. I would imagine it's like Major Battle Association, but it's a fairly popular league, and one of my friends, the Flying Bird, was running a tournament in that league for the off-season, and he was pretty selective on who got in, so it wasn't a huge tournament, but there were a lot of good players in it, and it was either like 96 or 64, something around there. But it was funny because Iron Flash Gaming, Zazo, he told me about this tournament because they were going to allow a lot of Ubers that, you know, people consider suspecting and think that may fit in the regular format. Not many cover Legend Ubers like, you know, Lugia, Mewtwo, Ho, anything like that, but they wanted to allow Magearna, Mega Metagross, the Deoxys forms, or I don't think they were going to allow Deoxys attack, but I think they were going to allow Deoxys defense and speed, Mega Mawile, Blaziken, including Mega Blaziken as well, Genesect. So some of the things that seem as though they could be not too broken, you know, somewhat manageable, and some of the things that just haven't really been suspected enough within the format for us to know if they really are broken. So I was pretty excited for that because I would want to use any of those Pokemon for the most part, and even if Magearna was something that fell to me, I would, you know, definitely like to pick Magearna because I actually think it's better than a good amount of the Pokemon I just named in the format. So I was kind of excited to join, and Zazo said that he was going to be in the tournament, and he's one of your closest friends in the community, and in my opinion, he's easily one of the best draft format players of all time, and I really want to get the chance to battle him again. So I was like, you know what, can I get in this tournament? And apparently I was kind of late to the party, but Bird made an exception and he let me in. So I was like, cool, maybe I'll get a chance to play Iron Flash Gaming again, and we could have a cool battle. But unbeknownst to me, he dropped out, and also unbeknownst to me, once I don't know what happened exactly, but I guess the higher-ups decided that they didn't want to allow the Ubers anymore, and they just wanted to make it a pretty regular draft format tournament. So by the time the draft rolled around, all of a sudden I see people picking like Celesteela first round, or like first pick, Landorus, Coco, and I'm thinking, what the heck? Well, I know those are good Pokemon, but why aren't people picking Ubers? And then I realized on the draft board the Ubers aren't there. So that was disappointing because that was one of the main reasons I joined this tournament. But then I realized that there was a lot of good competition in this tournament, and I was like, hey, you know, I just like getting a chance to draft new teams and new Pokemon and play good competition. So I'll try to make the best of it and see how it goes. So the way this draft worked was it's actually draft 10 Pokemon, which is probably my favorite number to draft because it's an even number. Even number is always better than odd numbers in a draft, and it's a little bit more than 8, which is a little less limiting, and it's not too much. Some people say 12 is too much. I don't know if 12 is too much, but anything more than 12, I would say, is a little over the top because that's just so many things to prep for. More than 12 is more than 2 full teams, you know, 2 full teams of 6. So this was a tiered draft, and I was pretty happy with the way my draft came out. Landorus Therian was actually my first pick, and I don't have it here. But then Mew was my second pick. Azumarill was my third pick. I know that's kind of early for Azu, but I love Azu, and I really think that people don't give it enough credit. Every time I've gotten the chance to use it, I've really enjoyed it. Then fourth round pick, I got into Heligo, which I think is an awesome poison type in the format. Its ability to suck up toxic spikes may not be as valued in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon with so much better hazard removal, but it's still a really good Pokemon considering it has a lot of different options, and Beast Boost having close speed and special attack gives it some pretty nice options. Then number 5, I got Snorlax, which is a Pokemon that I've learned in pretty recent months can be really, really tough to deal with in Gen 7. It got a huge buff with Gluttony and the new 50% healing berries, because that gives it almost reliable recovery, being able to recycle those berries and set up curses and whatnot. It's just a really tough Pokemon to take down, and it could boost on a lot of things. So I have the Snorlax. Round 5. Round 6, I can't remember what I got exactly. Was it Deblade? Maybe it was Deblade. I have the other Pokemon that I have on my team are Deblade, Hitmonlee, Archeops, Volibee, and then Mega Sceptile here. Mega Sceptile is probably design-wise my favorite Pokemon. It's my favorite Mega for sure, and design-wise it's probably my favorite design out of all Pokemon. I've been obsessed with that thing ever since it came out, and I've never gotten the chance to use it in the draft format. And in all honesty, it really isn't a very good Mega, but it's not bad. Okay, so from my experiences using it so far in this tournament, I would say that if you draft a team kind of similar to mine, a team that has all-around pretty decent defensive synergy, solid, momentum, but good breakers, because I definitely have a good amount of breakers on my team and ways to keep up pressure on my opponents, then Mega Sceptile can really shine because it has a ridiculous speed tier at 145, allowing it to outspeed the majority of the metagame with a modest nature, or whatever type of boosting nature you want to go with. So that is pretty cool, making its attacking stats a lot more threatening, and its coverage is really good. So even though it's not the strongest Pokemon, it is pretty strong, and with nice coverage and being able to know your opponent's team, it really can be nice against offensive teams. So with all the breakers that I have, even against bulkier teams, with all the breakers that I have, if I'm able to wear down my opponent, then Mega Sceptile could come in and do a nice cleanup. There are some teams that actually breaks really well against, because Grass Dragon is actually kind of difficult to switch into when it's got other coverage moves to round out. It stabs nicely like Focus Blast or Earthquake or Hidden Power Fire. So against offensive drafts, Sceptile could work as both like a cleaner and a breaker. It doesn't clean as well on offense, because on offense there's typically more priority and better Scarf users and whatnot. But overall, it could still outspeed most offensive Pokemon without a boost, and at the same time break against those offensive teams. So it is a pretty cool Pokemon, and it does fit my playstyle pretty decently. It's definitely not as good as something like Mega Alakazam or Mega Aerodactyl. It's probably not as good as Mega Beedrill either, but I'm not a huge Mega Beedrill fan. Anyway, we got paired up in a pool with Blitz, Bronzong, and the other person's name is Todd. Now, Blitz is someone that I've known recently to be a solid battler, so he had a pretty scary team. He had no hazard removal, if I recall correctly, other than his Charizard Y, which obviously is not a very good rock remover, as it's 4 times weak to them. So I was scared of the Charizard Y, because my only solid switch in, I guess I have Snorlax too, that could potentially switch in, but Snorlax could run a really nice curse set against this team. So Nihilego was my best Charizard check, but obviously Charizard could get Earthquake, so I'm running Air Balloon Nihilego here. And I don't remember the rest of the sets. I know it's like a lead Archeops, I believe. Can't remember what my Sceptile is exactly. I have a defensive Super Fang Will-O-Wisp Mew, and like I said, a Cursed Snorlax. So I think I'm Cursed Toxic Facade. Now, what was I going to say? Okay, so just to preface this one a little bit, this was just one of those games. That's all I'll say, because I actually brought the wrong team first, and Blitz was nice enough to let me bring the right team, but I'm not going to go into detail of why this was one of those games. I'm just going to say that there was some kind of in real life distraction going on during this game, and it'll be kind of apparent with the way I play in this one, so I'll just say that. I think I prepped a pretty solid team, but we'll see what happens. So he leads with Mamoswine, I lead with my Archeops. Now I switch out, because if he's Scarf with Icicle Spear, then he could OHKO me. So I go right into my Mew, and that does a lot. So he's Life Orb, and he's probably Adamant. Now, here, I actually EV'd my Mew to be able to live something like like 2 knockoffs once my item is removed from like a Life Orb Mamoswine. Now, I knew, like I said, I EV'd specifically knowing knockoff was a possibility, and now all of a sudden I just forget all about knockoff, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go for the Super Fang because Hydreigon just puts a lot of pressure on my team. I don't really have a safe switch into that, so I'm gonna go for the Will-O-Wisp. I mean the Super Fang instead of the Will-O-Wisp because he can absorb the Will-O-Wisp pretty nicely and then deal out some big damage, and Super Fang can damage the Hydreigon a pretty good amount, which could come in clutch later. So instead of going for the Will-O-Wisp, which was definitely my best play because this Muset totally shuts down the Clefable, as I have Taunt and Super Fang, and nothing else in this team really appreciates a Will-O-Wisp too much. It definitely would have been my best play to go for Will-O-Wisp, as I go for the Super Fang, and he just clean knocks me out with the knockoff. Now, that was a roll, but he would have been able to knock me out with Ice Shard the next turn, so that was just really dumb on my part because this Mamoswine is clearly a massive threat to my team, and had I Will-O-Wisped him there, then I would have crippled the Mamoswine, and my Mew, which was really good against him, would have been, healthy and still alive. So that was a really bad misplay on my part. So here I go into my Nihilego, and I have a feeling he's gonna Ice Shard and break my Air Balloon, but that's okay because I don't really need the Air Balloon that much anymore. So I get the Beast Boost with in Special Attack because he just does not have good switch into my Nihilego. So now I have a feeling he may have HP Ground on this Galvantula, but I decide to just stay in and go for the Power Gem because I know I can live any other hit if he does not have the what's it called? Hidden Power Ground. And I figured HP Ice was more likely because I have a Landorus T, so I'm going to stay in here because I'm in the back a little bit, and I knock him down to his Sash, and here I go right into my Snorlax, knowing that he's probably just going to Thunderbolt again, and I could set up on this thing. So I go right for the Curse, as here he switches into his Clefable, as I go for the Facade, just to scout out what his Clefable set was going to be, and that tells me that he is unaware, but that is fine, because I can beat most unaware Clefables if he's Wish Protect with Heal Bell, then maybe he'll be able to PP stall me, but other than that, I could beat other sets because I have the Toxic on this Snorlax. So here, I'm going to switch out my Snorlax and go into my Archeops because I want to get my Stealth Rocks up. He actually goes for a Toxic with his Clefable, so it was good that I did switch out because Toxic on my Snorlax will probably lose me the game. So here he goes right into his Galvantula, but that's fine, and here I make a misclick. I go for Endeavor by accident. I just completely, I guess, clicked the wrong move when I had, like, I had either Rock Slide or Stone Edge. I just completely clicked the wrong move and went for Endeavor, and now I'm going to lose my Archeops, which, it's not like I needed Archeops so much, but this loses me a lot of momentum. It's here I'm forced to go back into Snorlax instead of just knocking this out and having him go into something else that I could either pressure with Taunt and an attack. Now I'm forced to go into my Snorlax as he's able to save his Galvantula as a sack fodder, which is pretty useful for him. So I go right for the Curse here as he goes into his Clefable. And now I'm going to switch out into my Nihilego, knowing he's probably going to want to go for the Toxic, as he does do just that. And this is fine because he does not have good switch-ins to my Nihilego, but what sucks is that had I made these, had I been able to get Nihilego in on something that I could hit hard and he didn't have Galvantula as a sack, he would have had to sack something else, which would have been nice for me. But, of course, the misclick put me in a bad spot. So here he goes into Manaphy, and I'm just going to stay in here in Thunderbolt, as that is a pretty decent chunk. And here he's able to knock me out with the Surf. So now I go into my Snorlax, and I am kind of forced to go into a Azumarill here, just because the Hydro Vortex was a decent possibility on the Manaphy. So if he went for +3 Surf, he would have been able to knock out my Snorlax, which is my win condition. So I couldn't allow that. I had to try to bait that out, and I figured going into Azumarill would be a little bit better here, just because I can keep my Sceptile alive as well. And here I go for the Aqua Jet, and I'm not able to knock him out. So here I go into my Snorlax, knowing that he probably is not Hydro Vortex, considering he didn't go for it earlier. So I could easily just take a Surf and knock him out with the Facade and go right back to where I was. So here he goes in a Hydreigon, and I stay in here thinking I could just recycle, because I calced an Expert Belt Superpower And with I had a lot of defense on my Snorlax. I should be able to live. If it was Life Orb, I probably didn't have a good chance to live. So I probably should have scouted by going Sceptile first. But either way, he turns out to be a Choice Banded Hydreigon. And that was an interesting bring on his part because he was afraid of the Snorlax. He knew the Snorlax could beat him. So I don't think my Snorlax would have won this anyway because he does have Toxic on the Clef. So it would have been tough for me to, consistently recycle, get healthy, and curse up and deal damage while trying to not get worn down by Toxic too much. So I don't think I would be able to win anyway. But there was a chance my Sceptile could have won the match if I was able to remove his Hydreigon. But now, as you're going to see, this Hydreigon can outspeed me and do a lot of damage with the superpower. And I go for the Energy Ball here, thinking that he was going to switch out, but he doesn't even switch out. He stays in. I knew I was going to lose anyway, but I just had to kind of bank on a choke or something like that and hope that I could still outspeed the Hydreigon if he came back in. So I was hoping that maybe I could knock out the Clefable on the switch because his Clefable could take a hit guaranteed. So that was my thought process there. But I had a feeling I was going to lose anyway. So we lose that. We lose that 3-0 to Blitz. And, I don't know what would have happened had we not made those big misplays. Having Mew around would have been really nice. And then the misclick with Archeops was pretty bad as well. But the Mew play was particularly bad because not only was Mamo such a big threat, but Mew was such a big threat to him. So had I hit my Will-O-Wisp, then I would have been in a much better position than I ended up being in. So, it happens every now and then. Like in the BFA tournament, there was one game against someone named K Kirby where I totally had the game. I should have had the game in the bag. The win route was completely there, and I just did not see it and played so poorly. It happens. That game was probably worse because I had a pretty much guaranteed win. This one, I don't know if the win was guaranteed, even if I did everything correctly. But considering the fact that we did still have a pretty close game, despite my awful playing, tells me that, I probably did have a decent shot at least. So definitely a bad one. So I knew I had to prep a little bit harder for my next games. Now here's a game against Bronzong and the Portland Poliwags. I've seen Bronzong around a long time, and he has a lot of experience. He seems like a solid player and drafter and everything, and he has a really scary team. So I put in a lot of time, a lot of thought into this team. The matchup was it was pretty volatile because I knew I had some big threats to his team, but at the same time, it was really hard for me to check his team defensively while at the same time putting enough offensive pressure to really wear him down. And I knew Hazard Stack could be a potential problem, but I do have a Calm Mind, Mono Psyshock, Heal Bell Mew, because under the right circumstances, that should be able to beat his team. So I'm really kind of relying on that set here because, like I said, the Hazard Stack and just his scary team could definitely be a big problem. So I leave with my Landorus because I want to get up my rocks, and he goes right for the Trick Room. So I'm going to go right into my Doublade here as he goes for a Toxic, which was interesting. As here, I go right for the Shadow Claw, knowing that he doesn't have a Ghost Resist here. And we actually played one game right before this, and I Shadow Claw crit the Camerupt, so it was in range of Shadow Sneak on the next turn. But I offered the restart because for all those guys that like to spam my copy pasta, that's right, I like to give restarts because I don't want to win by hacks. So we restarted, as now the Camerupt, when it Mega Evolves, will not be in range of another Shadow Claw. As here he goes for an interesting move. He goes for the Will-O-Wisp. That was a pretty nice play as I go into my Azumarill, which I believe was Assault Vest. I can't remember for sure, but I think it was to help me take on the Camerupt. As I just go for the Aqua Jet here, predicting him to stay in. I didn't lose too much by it because if he went into something like Bulu or Manaphy, I did have other ways to play around it, although the Manaphy is more difficult to play around now that my Azumarill is burnt, because I think I was AV with enough to live a +3 Energy Ball, so this Azumarill could sort of help me deal with an offensive Manaphy. So yeah, that was definitely a good prep on his part, going for the Will-O-Wisp on Camerupt, but I do catch him staying in, knowing that the Aqua Jet will still knock him out even though I'm burned. As here he goes into his Klefki, and because I'm burned, I can't do enough damage to this thing, so I go right into my Nihilego, because Toxic Spikes plus my Mew set will definitely be difficult for him to deal with. So here I go into my my Landorus, and here I go for the Supersonic Sky Strike, knowing that it'll do a good chunk to Klefki, as well as do a good chunk to Bronzong. If he switches out into Bulu or Zygarde, it will crush those too. Manaphy, same thing. So I go for the Sky Strike just for some damage. I figured he might want to go for Magnet Rise or something like that here, but he actually goes for the Reflect. So that is actually pretty annoying, the fact that he has Reflect, because if he has Light Screen as well, then that makes Mew's job harder, because my Mew is not going to be that strong, even a +6, because I don't have any special attack investment. So if he has Light Screen up, my +6 Psyshocks won't do too much, especially considering he's got 2 Psychic resist, considering Bronzong is also 4 times resistant to Psychic. So here I go for a Calm Mind on this Bronzong, knowing that he just cannot do anything to me. He does have the Toxic, which is a little annoying, because I only have 8 PP for Heal Bell, but that is fine, though, because I could just really try to set up as he also tricks me, which is also annoying. This is definitely interesting prep on Bronzong's part. Not Bronzong, Bronson. Bronson with the Bronzong is showing some pretty cool techs here. He's got Trick on a Trick Room Bronzong, and he had a Shuckaberry on this Bronzong telling me he's probably heat proof. So here, either that or he just figured I might want to go with like a Gravity Landorus. So he goes for the Trick, which is even more annoying now, because now I lose some of my passive recovery with leftovers, making the Toxic a lot more threatening. So I go for the Heal Bell here, though, as now I know I can set up another Calm Mind, and he could keep Toxicing me, but once I get up to +6, then it'll be hard for him to deal with the Mew. So I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. He gets up his rocks, as here he goes into Klefki, and I'm hoping that he only had Reflect and not Light Screen as well, but it turns out he does have Light Screen. As I roost up, and then I Heal Bell on his Bronzong switching, and I'm going to get up to +6, because there's no reason for me to attack before I'm at +6. So here, he goes into Bulu, and I'm just hoping that he's not Choice Banded, because I know I could live a Choice Banded hit, but if he, if I took the Choice Banded hit, I would roost up and probably I would barely take the Choice Banded hit, and I'd roost up a little over 50. So upon coming back in on these hazards, I would be a pretty low Mew. So that's why, if that was Choice Banded, I would be in a good amount of trouble here, because he's got all of his hazards up. So that is definitely annoying for my team. So here, I'm able to roost up on the Bulu, because he is not banded. So here I go for the Psyshock, knowing that it'll 2 a KO if he does want to go for the SD. And here I'm just going to click Psyshock to get some more damage on this Bronzong. I know it's not doing much, but now that the Light Screen is gone, it's going to do a considerable amount more. He misses a Toxic, which is really annoying on his for him, because he actually misses 2 Toxics in a row, which is pretty ridiculous. And then I get a crit on the Psyshock. This is probably the most lucky I've ever gotten in a game, as it's not even ending. It's not even going to end here. I'll just say that. I'm going to get luckier with this Mew, and it's going to allow me to just pretty much destroy his team. I Calm Minded here on purpose, though, so he can land his Toxic on me. So, I tried to mitigate it a little bit, but he ends up getting more unlucky. I got a critical hit on his Klefki, which ended up knocking that out when it wasn't in range, and it could have probably set up another Light Screen. So here he goes into Bulu as I Heal Bell, and I know I'm out of range of Bulu's attacks here. So I am going to go right for the... he goes for the Rock Slide, and he gets a flinch. He's just trying to flinch me down here, but unfortunately he's not able to. And here he goes for the Guardian of Alola, as I actually do go for the Roost, just in case, because he's poisoned here, and the Grassy and the Trick Room terms are ending. So I just wanted the Trick Room to end before I could be able to start attacking again. So basically, I'm getting my plays right against Bronson, and also I got really lucky with Mew, as here I'm able to just sweep the rest of his team and pick up the 6-0 victory, which, my Mew was going to be really hard for him to stop, even if I didn't get so lucky, because I still had like 5 more Heal Bells. So even if he didn't miss those Toxics, which didn't matter too much, because all I did was get up another either Calm Mind or another Roost. I can't remember what I did exactly on those turns, but I ended up letting him Toxic me. It was more the critical hits that mattered, because, for example, he could have gotten up another Light Screen with Klefki, or he could have He could have lived more hits with Bronzong and pressured me a little bit more, but I do think there was a good chance Mew just won, but we don't really know because I got lucky and can't really say. Had my Mew at least though put in a good amount more work and taken out a couple more things, then there's a good chance that the rest of my team could have handled him. But I don't know for sure. I really don't. Mega Sceptile was a big threat after his steel types were either weakened or gone down. And Azumarill, actually no, Azumarill was burned. Nihilego also was a pretty big threat to him, as I think I had the speed boosting beast boost. So had I knocked out one Pokemon, then I would be able to outspeed his whole team, and I had expert belt, so I'd be able to knock out the Zygarde with an HP Ice and do a lot to Manaphy with Thunderbolt. So yeah, it's hard to say exactly what would have happened, but like I said, I do think there was a good chance my Mew would have won anyway, but it really is hard to say because Bronzong was playing pretty well, and he got unlucky in a bunch of those scenarios. So sorry to Bronzong, what are you going to do? It is Pokemon at the end of the day. I did offer a restart first, like I said, when I Shadow Claw crit his camera up, but then we were so far into the game that I knew we wouldn't be able to recreate it. So I'm not just going to offer a rematch where we do everything differently, because now he already knows my sets and everything. So that was kind of out of the question, unfortunately. So we get the 6-0 victory, and that helps us because we were, 0-1 with a -3 differential, and now we are 1-1 with a +3 differential. So that 6-0 differential definitely helped us a good amount, as we still need to win this game, though, against Todd to be able to move on to the playoffs, because if he beats us, he beat Bronzong already. So if he beats us, then he will be 2-1, and Blitz went 3-0. So yeah, this will be an important game. So I lead with my Archeops. I had a really cool set here. I have Sandstorm, Stealth Rock, Archeops, because if he led with Alolan Ninetales, then he would be slower than my Archeops, and he would get up the Hail after me. He'd probably want to switch out, but in case he wanted to go for the Aurora Veil or any sort of attack, I could go right for the Sandstorm. I have the Focus Sash. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background a little bit, but I have the Focus Sash, so even if you want to go for an attack, he wouldn't be able to knock me out even if he crit me, because I'd have the Sandstorm special defense boost, and I wouldn't allow him to set up an Aurora Veil. If he was really confident that I would go for rocks and he wasn't afraid, or even if he was Focus Sash or Aurora Veil, I would prevent him from being able to set that up. So it was kind of a cool Archeops set, but he's got a really scary hyper-offensive team, so I brought a pretty hyper-offensive, anti-offense type of team to counteract that. So here, he leads with his Mega Gyarados, so I go right for my Stealth Rocks here, and he goes right for the Waterfall, knowing that I could potentially taunt. So here I'm going to switch out and go right into my Azumarill, in case he did want to Dragon Dance there, because I know I could take a hit at +1 no matter what. As here he goes for the Relic Song. Thankfully, we do not go to sleep, and we knock him right out with the Play Rough. So here he goes in a Serperior, and I can go into my Archeops here and just sack it off. As here he goes for the Substitute, and I guess I didn't have something to break the Serp sub. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I don't think I had a move to break the Serperior sub. So I go into my Scarf Landorus here, which I don't want to go into because my Scarf Landorus is really good against him. So, but I do it because, and he gets a crit with the Leaf Storm, which kind of sucks, as now I'm in range of 2 rock switch-ins. Good thing he doesn't have any priority on his team. But I didn't want to go into my Landorus because it's so good against him. But I felt that I had to, because I knew I could take a Leaf Storm and I could break the sub with the U-turn. And then go into my Archeops because I know he'd be forced to attack again on the next turn. As I was able to sack that, and now I can go back into my Landorus again and go for the U-turn because I know it will put him out of range of being able to get up a sub. And here I can go into my Doublade, which takes 90% from the Leaf Storm, even with the Eviolite and a resisted hit. But I go for the Shadow Sneak, and we do not pick up the kill. So that kind of stinks. But here I can go into my Mega Sceptile, because this is the type of matchup I was talking about where Mega Sceptile could just be so dangerous, because look at his team and look at Mega Sceptile. He does have the Ninetales, the Alolan Ninetales, but Mega Sceptile does get Iron Tail, which can OHKO the Ninetales. Even a Leaf Storm could potentially OHKO a Ninetales from here, depending on his investment. But there's no reason for me to risk it. I think I only have Energy Ball in the set anyway, but look, he's got things like Superior, which takes a ton from Dragon Pulse, Hacktress, which gets bodied by Dragon Pulse, Mega Gyarados, which gets hit by Grass Coverage, Thunderous T, which, if it's choiced, has to be careful because Mega Sceptile can absorb the electric moves and hit it hard back with something like Dragon Pulse or Rock Slide. Even Meloetta Pirouette, Mega Sceptile could outspeed that even with a modest nature. So that's why Sceptile could be so good in some of these matchups. Thankfully, we hit the Iron Tail, though, because if we didn't, we'd be in a bad spot. As now he goes into his Thunderous T. And unfortunately, not even a modest Dragon Pulse will be able to knock him out. But I go right into Nihilego because I am EV to live a +2, or I mean, I'm EV to live a Shattered Psyche from an unboosted Thundurus, and if he did Nasty Plot, then I'm fine because I have Scarf Landorus, because then he'd be forced to attack here and knock me out, and I have Scarf Landorus, as well as Mega Sceptile in the back that can revenge this. So that's why Nihilego is my switch-in, and he does go for the Gigavolt Havoc here, which does not end up knocking me out. That was Z Thunder, as that's how bulky Nihilego is. A Z Thunder from a 145 special attack Pokemon in Thundurus, and we chew that up pretty nicely as we knock him out with the Power Gem. And I'm also the set again with the plus speed boosting nature, as I also have an Expert Belt, and I know I can knock out a Mega Gyarados with Grass Knot at +1, or at least do a lot of damage to it. And we come close, and he goes for a Dragonette here. That was a misplay on his part because now we're able to knock him out, but it didn't really matter because even if he did knock out my Nihilego, then Mega Sceptile just came in and won. So here I go right for the Sludge Wave, and we do a lot of damage to the Haxorus, as he's the only chance he had is if he was Scarf and wanted to sweep with like Scarf Poison Jab or something like that, but he probably would not have been able to do that, considering I have a Landorus that can intimidate it and then put my other two Pokemon out of range of a Poison Jab and then be able to knock him out. So that was a good game. Definitely a fun, fast, hyper-offensive game. Only 16 turns, and we pick up the 3-0 victory. So we end up 2-1 +6, and we do make it to the playoffs. So tomorrow I will have at least most of my playoff run, because the tournament is actually still going so far. So if I'm still in, then I'll have up to where I am, and if I'm not, then I'll have my whole playoff run. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I apologize for the first game. Terrible playing. I know it's not really a good way to teach, but at least I showed you guys what I did wrong, and that the fact that I acknowledged what I did wrong, because it's really important to learn from your own mistakes so you don't make them again. And after playing that game so poorly, I was just like, wow, I really need to kick it into high gear, which in the next two games, as you can see, I did much better. So yeah, definitely fun pool games. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with how my draft came out. Mega Sceptile is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I'm happy it put so much work in this game. And we are moving on to the playoffs. We have a really tough opponent round one. His name is Pesky Skitty. It's someone that I've seen do really well in tournaments recently. I watched his other replays in his other pool, and he was going against some good opponents, and he was thrashing them. So he seems like a tough opponent. So I'll show you guys that tomorrow, and definitely let me know what you thought in the comments below. I really appreciate all the support, and most importantly, have yourselves a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next one later.